Away with medieval magic by volunteering at the 29th Annual Hogtown Medieval Fair on January 24th and 25th and January 30th through February 1st at the Alachua County Fairgrounds. Volunteers will take tickets, oversee exhibits, or provide breaks for the artists. Become a part of Gainesville's rich tradition of community service. Volunteers will receive a one-day pass. Applications can be downloaded at gvlculturalaffairs.org or call the City of Gainesville at 352-393-8536.
Check this out.
New shows? Check. Check. Some new talent? Check. The same great sports talk?
I'm seeing it right now.
Wrong.
Wrong again? Wrong.
It's better.
There are so many great things going on in sports.
We gotta get it. From our mics.
Test.
To your ears.
The latest update we got is...
awesome.
We all know the importance of good health, but we may not know the latest advances in medicine that are available to us. Monday at 9 a.m., Bern Paraiso will be our roving medical reporter to tell us about Seven Hill Gastroenterology PA and Dr. Reddy. We'll discuss screening, techniques, and more. So tune in and listen. This is more than news you can use. It's news that could save your life. That's Monday at 9:05 a.m.
All right, 20 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's Friday. I'm so glad it's Friday. You glad it's Friday, Robin?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. We don't have our guest on the phone. I don't know what happened to her. I was looking forward to this because she has written a book about Superstorm Sandy. Not to be confused with Sandy Superstores.
That's right.
Oh, wow. I just realized that.
Big Sandy
Superstores.
Yeah.
This is Superstorm Sandy. Wow. Yep. I just never put the two together. Anyway, Kathryn Miles wrote the book about the storm that hit the northeast coast. Was that 1 year ago or 2 years ago now?
I think it was 2 years ago.
So she was expected to call in, but we haven't heard from her, so we're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be at the parade tomorrow and looking forward to it. I love the Ocala Christmas parade. I'm not a parade fan in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of weird that I say I love the Ocala Christmas parade and I love the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade.
That's right.
But I do love those two parades. Don't ask me why. But let me tell you the big difference. First of all, I think Ocala puts on one of the best parades ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I have an idea. I shared this with you the other day. I'll repeat it. Oh, geez, there goes the camera.
I see it.
The camera falls down.
That's okay. We can chat without the camera. It can look at wherever it looks at.
The camera falls down. The headphones don't work. All right. So anyway, I want to tell you my thoughts about the Ocala Christmas parade.
Mm-hmm.
I know people in the parade.
Yeah.
And so do you. That's the big difference between like the Thanksgiving parade in New York. I don't know anybody. I think one time I went to the parade and there was a girl I knew who was in the parade, you know. And there's been times when we've had Ocala guests. Is this our guest?
Probably, yeah.
All right. You know what we'll do? We'll take a break. We'll talk to her off there. We'll be right back.
Okay.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. A nice day today with sunshine and a few clouds. The high 63 to 67. Tonight will be clear and chilly with a low of 34 in the coldest inland spot to about 48 along the coast. Tomorrow partly sunny and mild. The high 65 to 69. And for Sunday mostly sunny with a high of 66 to 70. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Yes, it's that time of year again. Christmas Days at WOCA, and we are in the spirit of giving. What you need to do to win is call us when we ask you to, and we'll put your name in the drawing. Remember, you can only put your name in once. You may win a certificate from Pac Mail, or one from Ocala Utilities, or one from Downtown Jewelry and Pawn of Bellevue, or Dance Alive, or... So listen and put your name in, and listen to win on WOCA, The Source.
Hey, this is Matt Gibbs from Sunrise Auto Repair and Crossroad Auto Sales. Here to remind you that the holiday season is upon us. And while you're out shopping for those gifts, you're going to be demanding more from your vehicle. So don't forget to get your vehicle a Christmas gift too. Low tires can be dangerous and cause poor fuel economy. Dirty air filters can rob your engine of performance. And dirty oil can shorten the life of your vehicle's engine. Stop by Sunrise Auto for a fresh oil change and a free 30-point inspection so you can keep on holiday shopping with confidence. confidence. A gift card from Sunrise Auto also makes a great gift for friends and family. From oil changes to engine replacements, yes, we do that. And if it's time for a newer vehicle, we have a great selection of quality used vehicles to choose from with our in-house financing available. So stop in today at 1800 Northwest 10th Street or call for an appointment 690-1993. From all of us here at Sunrise Auto and Crossroad Auto Sales, have a very Merry Christmas.
Dad's service to our country is something we're all proud of. He made a difference and set a great example. Now it's our turn to honor the sacrifices he made for our family and his country. As Veterans Funeral Specialist, Hires Baxley Funeral Services helped us celebrate Dad's life, and they can help you too. Hires Baxley is here for you during your time of need or when planning for the future. For more information, call 352-342-9628 or visit hires-baxley.com/visit.
All right, 15 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy that Kathryn Miles has called in. She has written a book called Superstorm, 9 Days Inside Hurricane Sandy. Real quickly, I want to tell you something. And for those who don't know, I grew up on Long Island, which was hit hard by Superstorm Sandy. I remember as a little kid, the news was on, a hurricane was coming, and everybody said, don't worry, because Long Island never gets hit. By the time it gets here, it's usually, weakened or whatever. And I don't know if that's historically correct or not at all, but obviously it wasn't correct with Hurricane Superstorm Sandy. I remember I've got so many friends still up there, and the pictures that they were sending back were unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Things destroyed, sand piled up on the south shore of Long Island, and I'm sure this is true for New Jersey and some of the other areas as well. Sand piled up like snow. It was unbelievable. I had never seen anything like that before. Kathryn Miles, it's an honor to have you on, and this is going to be such a fascinating conversation. Good morning. Her book is called Superstorm, if I didn't tell you. Good morning, Kathryn.
Hi. Thanks for having me today.
Where are you? Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Yeah, and I neglected to really introduce you properly. You are an award-winning science writer, so we're going to look at the storm from a science perspective, right?
Well, yes and no. What I really wanted to do was put a human face on the storm, and I really wanted to talk about the people, everyone from average citizens, residents of places like Long Island, up to our key decision makers, and really think through the decisions that they made, the risks that they confronted. And like I said, just really make this a very human story. It's a tragic story. It's a heroic story. And I really wanted to get that range.
It was only a human story for me. I mean, there was nothing else but human story when I was getting the emails and the Facebook posts from my friends. And I think one of my friends was out of electricity for a month. It was a long time.
Very long time. And, we're still only now beginning to really unpack the damage that Sandy did. And for a lot of homeowners in New York and New Jersey, it's just been a constant nightmare. There are people who are still fighting with their insurance agencies who haven't seen a dime yet in order to repair their homes. So while the storm happened 2 years ago, it's still a very contemporaneous story with a lot of very modern, everyday effects.
Where were you at? Where are you right now, first of all?
I live in Maine. I happened to be down in North Carolina during the storm visiting my family, so I got kind of, the outer edge of it, enough to know that it was a powerful monster. Right.
So historically speaking, when I was a kid and I was told, don't worry, by the time they get here, they're never strong. Is that true at all? Or has it been true, I should say?
Every storm is different, and what we do know about hurricanes is that they are fueled by warm ocean water. That's their propulsive force. That's what really keeps them kicking and the machine operating, if you will. So it depends a lot on the temperature of the oceans. Certainly we've seen catastrophic hurricanes hit as far as New England and even further north into Canada, things like the famous 1938 hurricane. But we're seeing warmer ocean waters, and that means that storms can creep that much further north and get that much bigger.
I have a question regarding predicting storms. If we were perfectly able to predict storms, the only thing I can see that would change is we could get out of town. Am I wrong about that? Is there science, and I know you want to talk about the people, but is there science available that says we could actually develop ways to diminish the storm's strength? Can we do that?
Well, certainly we've tried, and we've had some very elaborate and frankly expensive programs and projects and attempts with the U.S. military and the U.S. government to try to control storms. They date back 100 years. They go up well into the 1980s. None of them have conclusively proven that we can do anything other than, as you say, get out of our way. And so for me, I think the best thing we can do is invest in our meteorological infrastructure, make sure our forecasters have everything they need to be able to tell us a week in advance that the storm is a threat. I think we need to invest in a better grid system so that when storms hit, we can rebound more quickly. A lot of this sort of preventative work so that when storms do hit, and we know they will, they won't be as devastating as they could be otherwise.
Is there any place in the world where they are more prepared than we are?
There's all sorts of places in the world that are more prepared than we are.
No, and I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm wondering if they do things differently.
No, they do, and that was the real surprise for me in writing this book. Is I set out to write a story of Superstorm Sandy, and I set out to tell these stories of the people involved. But what I didn't expect, and what I quickly uncovered, was really this significant meteorological infrastructure crisis in our country. We used to lead the world in this sort of work, and we've fallen down. And we see countries that don't have nearly the means that we do that are really making much greater strides in terms of not only their forecasting, but perhaps more importantly, their ability to warn their citizens.
Okay, now let's go back to Hurricane Sandy. I remember the warnings. There were warnings. Were they just not early enough? What are you saying?
Well, part of what was confusing about Sandy was it began as a very typical tropical storm. And of course, the National Hurricane Center, fantastic forecasters down in Miami, they, at the time, had a very narrowly defined purview. And that said, look, when a storm is a tropical storm, the National Hurricane Center issues watches, warnings, and advisories. Sandy, of course, began to transition into this hybrid storm fairly early on. As soon as that transition began to happen, the National Hurricane Center literally couldn't issue watches and warnings anymore. They thought their software would break. So they had to make a pretty messy 11th-hour decision to hand off forecasting responsibility to regional National Weather Service offices. And so you saw a lot of confusion for people in places like New Jersey, where all of a sudden there are hurricane warnings up. Now the hurricane warnings have been taken down. Now they're replaced with a gale warning. There was a really interesting study that said the overwhelming majority of people in the path of the storm had no idea what kind of storm was heading towards them. Now, ultimately, it shouldn't matter, right? A big storm is coming.
Right. But was apathy part of it because of the notion that, don't worry, we're in the Northeast, this doesn't ever hit us hard?
Definitely. And, a lot of people talk about the Irene effect. Irene, almost exactly a year before, had a beat on New York, New Jersey, massive evacuations, really high evacuation response rate. And then, of course, the storm misses the coast and creates this catastrophic flooding inland. So some people who had obeyed their evacuation orders, left their coastal homes, gone inland, found themselves trapped inland, and then meanwhile their coastal homes were being looted. So for some people it was a kind of fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you situation.
Right. Do you know, in 2004 we had some, they weren't as bad as Sandy or as Katrina, but we had some storms that came through here. And I worked in radio, and I had a couple of listeners call me and say, what should I do? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I do a radio show. I'll tell you what I would do. Is the only thing I'd say. I would get out of town. Drive up to North Carolina and stay there for a while, because these storms are coming right at us. If the government doesn't do it, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but if the government doesn't come through with what should be done, then the only thing we can do as individuals is that kind of thing. The only thing we can do is kind of guess the worst possible scenario and move out for a day or two if it's possible.
That's right. And culturally, we have a really hard time doing that. I interviewed several professors and sociologists who focus on risk and risk assessment. And they said, look, Americans consistently undervalue the risk that natural disaster and meteorological disaster poses. We think we're somehow immune to it. And so we consistently make bad choices when faced with this kind of disaster. And that's really what I wanted to call attention to in the book, is to say, look, we all do this. We all think we're going to be fine. And, sometimes we are, but oftentimes we're not. And what we do know without a fact is that the face of weather is changing. We're going to see more severe, bigger, weirder, harder to predict storms in our lifetime. And so we really need to do, as you say, we need to get out of Dodge, even if it's not entirely certain that the storm is going to hit us.
So technology, for one, has to be improved, but how about all the scientists and the engineers that are needed to work on that technology? Do they get paid well to do that? Is that where one of the fallbacks is?
They don't, and I'm here to tell you these are the hardest working people you have ever met. Incredibly talented, hard-working meteorologists. I was just on a weather show a few nights ago with several National Weather Service forecasters, and they said, look, we're so hemmed in terms of not being allowed to work overtime, not do these things, that we can literally be, mid-forecast, and then we have to go home,
So they agree with you.
They totally agree. And, when Sandy hit, we had about 300 unstaffed forecasting and senior level technician positions, empty positions in the National Weather Service. Since Sandy, that number has grown to over 400. They're hemmed in by their budgets. They're hemmed in by outmoded equipment. And it really is a national security crisis at this point.
So this is going to be obviously showing my naivety with the subject, but when we go to the Weather Channel, that's like a private organization, right? And when we go to weather.gov, that's the government. Do they give each other information, or do they come to their own separate conclusions? And is one funded more than the other? How does that work?
It's really interesting. And, this is something that's happened in our lifetime, and we're really the first people to see this happen. We have the National Weather Service, we have NOAA, but then you're right, we have these really great private companies like the Weather Channel, like AccuWeather, which at this point is an international company, and they have very different responses and sometimes very different forecasts. When the National Weather Service network was hacked about 2 months ago, they were down. Their satellite image was down. They were issuing false warnings. AccuWeather wasn't. And so we see this really interesting transition from the public to the private, and I think it creates some confusion for Americans. They don't know where to go to get their best forecast.
All right, I'm enjoying this conversation greatly. Kathryn Miles is our guest. Her book is called Superstorm: 9 Days Inside Hurricane Sandy. I know we only got about 3.5 minutes left. What is the conclusion? What can we do? You mentioned earlier, and gosh, I almost felt like you were offended by the question, but I meant no harm. When I was asking, does anybody have a better system than us? Mm-hmm. Whoever that is, whether it's Japan or China or England, whoever has that better system, can we copycat them, and would that help us?
We definitely can, and I was absolutely not offended by the question. I think it was more just sort of glee that you were asking the exact right question.
Oh, okay, okay.
And, if we look at places like Japan, Canada, and England, their national weather programs, which are very well funded, are directly tied to a national broadcast system. And really, that was the real confusion with Sandy. In the end, the forecasters did a good job with Sandy, but what happened was their message got lost in the shuffle. They create the forecast. They hope somebody will pick it up and repeat it, And so one thing we need to consider is, how is this information getting to emergency managers, mayors and governors,
I see.
residents who need to make their own decisions? And so the science may be there, but the communication of that science is definitely not there.
So we're more than a decade into the emergency alert system. This is an FCC thing. Mm-hmm. The emergency alert system requires all broadcasting outlets, TV and radio, to be hooked up. It's different than the emergency broadcast system, which is what we grew up with when we were kids. The difference between that and that one, they called us and then we made the announcement, or we hooked them up somehow. Emergency alert system, they do it automatically. They can cut in at any point and cut us off and start talking on our radio station. And that's designed so that they can get the word out when it needs to get out. It could be a bomb, it could be a terrorist, it could be a storm, which most of the time it's a storm. Mm-hmm. In fact, all the time. I've never heard anything but a storm. Is that not good enough?
Well, it could be good enough, but again, as a senior official at the National Hurricane Center said to me, he's like, look, we can barely keep the trains running right now, and so it's a matter of, do we have that, for instance, social outreach officer employed, to be able to get that going, and is it being communicated in words that people are going to stand? If I say to you, look, we have an extratropical system bearing down on us, does that mean the same thing as, hurricane force winds and storm surge that's going to swamp your car. So part of it too is what we're saying as well as how we're saying it.
And there's the dilemma between the people. Should they stay and try to protect their home and their valuables, like you referred to earlier about the looting, or should they leave and, just to save their lives?
I talked to a Coast Guard official in North Carolina, and he has my favorite quote in the book. He says, Mother Nature plays to win, and she wins every time. And so, I say, bet on Mother Nature.
Yeah, right. Kathryn, thank you so much for being on with us today. Great interview. The book is called Superstorm. Kathryn Miles, Kathryn, and Miles is spelled like it sounds. Do you have a website, Kathryn?
I sure do. The book's website is superstormthebook.com, and you can find me at kathrynmiles.net.
.net, okay. And call us. I got a copy of the book. I'll give it away if you call me first. 622-9622. Kathryn Miles, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Joe Chiaro.
The backyard was flooded, then 45 minutes later, the garage.
California sopping wet. Heavy rain and powerful winds causing mudslide concerns and major power outages. Driving not too fun either.
Unfortunately, my car was not equipped to go through all that water.
Her car got stuck in Sacramento. More than 100 homes are evacuated 50 miles north of L.A. The House approved it.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The joint resolution is passed.
And now it's up to the Senate to do the same, pass a $1 trillion spending bill to keep the government operating. A Senate vote not expected until the weekend. Emergency funding is in place to give the Senate time. And cheaper oil keeping U.S. inflation in check. Falling gas and food costs pushed down overall U.S. wholesale prices last month. The Producer Price Index fell 0.2 of a point. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Dentist office, may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to cancel my teeth whitening appointment.
May I ask why?
I found a teeth whitener that works in 5 minutes that I can do from home. It's called Power Swabs.
Hi, I'm John Greenhut, and if you want to whiten your teeth 2 shades in 5 minutes and 6 shades in 7 days, then try Power Swabs. Just swab your teeth and you're done. Try Power Swabs risk-free by calling 1-800-663-5922. That's 1-800-663-5922. 1-800-663-5922.
Miss my golfsmith gave to me 12 Pro V1s, 11 Under Armour's, 10 Golf Tech lessons, 9 Nike pants, 8 Bertha irons, 7 Golfsmith gift cards, 6 Garmin watches, a 5 iron 2.
Come celebrate Golfmas, happening right now only at Golfsmith.
These 2 Cleveland wedges and a tap-in birdie on a par 3.
Golfsmith, anything for golf.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. More Farm Bill educational sessions are being held across the Southeast. Monday at 9:30 in Tifton, Georgia, at the University of Georgia Tifton Campus Conference Center. Then also on Monday, December the 15th at 4 p.m. in Bainbridge at the Cloud Livestock Facility. Then in Dawson, Georgia, that'll be on December the 16th, Terrell County 4-H Pavilion. That starts at 9:30. And then December the 16th in Quitman, Georgia, at the Brooks County Ag Center. That starts at 4 p.m. Also in Florida, on Defuniak Springs, that'll be December the 16th at 6 p.m. at the Walton County Extension Service in Defuniak Springs. And then on December the 18th at 6 p.m. in Marianna, Florida, at the Jackson County Ag Conference Center. That will be in Marianna, Florida, December the 18th. But a lot of emphasis being placed on farm bills and a lot of emphasis being placed on farmers making their decision as they plan for the new crop year.
Did you know your checkoff is sharing the benefits of beef with millennials through social media? Did you know your beef checkoff helped get 6 extra lean cuts certified as heart healthy by the American Heart Association? Did you know your checkoff is helping us set new U.S. beef export records? While you manage your operation, your beef checkoff is working hard to keep beef top of mind with consumers here and around the world. Get to know your checkoff and start sharing the facts at mybeefcheckoff.com. Funded by the Beef Checkoff.
The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service has a program to reward and encourage environmental stewardship for ag and forestry producers. The Conservation Stewardship Program, or CSP, is voluntary. Applicants must be USDA operators. CSP participants will adopt new conservation practices and manage existing ones. For more information on CSP, visit nrcs.usda.gov or call NRCS. Helping people help the land.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
Every Mike in Mike Scottsville liked Christmas a lot. But there was one tiny problem where someone may not. While they were all enjoying their Christmas roast beast, not everyone everywhere had such a fine feast. The phone was ringing at Central Headquarters shop. Somewhere, someone's water was never ever going to stop. They plugged it with rags, cotton balls too, and even added a didgeridoo. But their efforts were thwarted, no matter their intent. The water kept coming, and coming it went. Their frantic voice told a story of woes. But the operator on the line was a professional pro. She said with a smile, "Don't worry a bit. Mike Scott Plumbing is on the job, and we have toolkits." But what about the large bill that's coming, she'd say? We don't charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. Mike Scott Plumbing wishes you and yours a happy, happy holiday and many, many more.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.